Okay, so let's recap what you've defined so far. Local challenge or opportunity, scientific and educational goals, scientific question, citizen science project, collaborations, and ways of implementing it all. But how can you understand if you and your students have achieved the goals you have previously defined? There are a lot of ways to measure impact, and you should choose one that fits your context, subject, students, activities, and all other factors that you find relevant. Regarding your scientific goal, for example, think about the activities that will be developed in the context of the selected citizen science project, and which indicators will allow you to tell if you will be able to answer your scientific question or to implement your citizen science project in a successful way. Regarding your educational goals, how can you tell if the integration of citizen science in your daily practices will help you meet your curricular objectives and improve students' engagement and learning outcomes? According to the User's Guide for Evaluating Learning Outcomes in Citizen Science, published by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, an experimental institution in conservation of biodiversity through research, education, and citizen science, there are different dimensions one could assess when evaluating students' engagement in individual learning outcomes from citizen science projects. Here are some of their examples. Interest in science and the environment. This is the interest in pursuing science and environmental topics, careers, activities, and issues. Knowledge of nature of science. Understanding the scientific process and how science is conducted by researchers. Skills of science inquiry. Procedural skills such as asking questions, designing studies, collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data, experimenting, argumentation, synthesis, technology use, communication, critical thinking. Self-efficacy. The extent to which a learner has confidence in his or her ability to participate in science or to successfully perform stewardship behaviors. Motivation. Motivation to pursue science and environmental goals, such as STEM careers and citizen science project activities. Behavior and stewardship. Behavior change resulting from participation, such as place-based and global stewardship, new participation, and community or civic action. As our teacher told us earlier, she wanted to be able to observe biodiversity directly while approaching certain domains of the curriculum through nature activities and ultimately to develop in her students the feeling and attitude that we all play a part in monitoring and protecting biodiversity. Let's hear how she has been monitoring the impact of the Citizen Science Project and the activities that she has been developing with her students.
Donc au niveau des collégiens, c'est surtout l'impact, surtout avec aussi le rôle joué par notre jardinière qui vient compléter un petit peu nos actions. Mais c'est surtout au niveau du parc pour comprendre pourquoi il ne faut pas le dégrader, pourquoi est-ce qu'il ne faut pas effectivement marcher sur les pelouses, casser peut-être les branches, voilà. Donc c'est des petites choses simples. Et puis après, surtout, on a mis en place depuis l'année dernière, donc c'est la deuxième année, un petit club jardin. Donc là où on a de plus en plus d'élèves qui viennent adhérer, voilà, pour faire ces actions en lien avec la biodiversité. Donc c'est avec ce petit groupe qu'on a fabriqué les hôtels à insectes, on fabrique les nichoirs, qu'on nettoie les nichoirs tous les ans, qu'on met en place des mangeoires. Là on a mis en place une petite zone de compostage. Et puis on les a responsabilisés aussi au niveau d'une petite partie du jardin. Dont ils sont responsables et ils ont pour mission d'y développer la biodiversité. Donc ils ont fait tout un travail d'observation pour voir quel type de fleurs on avait, quels insectes venaient sur ces fleurs et comment, tout en privilégiant les végétaux qui étaient déjà là, comment développer la biodiversité dans ce petit espace. Alors pour les élèves de terminale, donc en enseignement scientifique, c'est vrai que cette pratique des observatoires de la biodiversité, ça a effectivement motivé ou en tout cas éclairé un certain nombre d'élèves qui n'avaient pas fait de spécialité scientifique, donc qui étaient en spécialité plutôt géopolitique, histoire, SES. Et tout d'un coup, ils se sont dit, mais tiens, effectivement, on a une explication, on a les moyens effectivement d'évaluer cette biodiversité. Et ça leur a donné, je pense, voilà, un éclairage sur toutes les données qu'ils pouvaient peut-être travailler en géopolitique et les impacts que ça pouvait avoir au niveau mondial. Voilà, donc pour moi c'était une belle réussite parce que c'est des élèves qui ont finalement été très motivés par cette activité, tout en n'étant pas scientifiques, en n'ayant pas fait de spécialité scientifique en première ou en terminale.
Monitoring impact is indeed a multidimensional and complex task. And again, there are multiple ways of evaluating the impact of your citizen science project, and it depends on several variables that are fundamental to take into consideration. For example, as our teacher just highlighted, the impact of citizen science in students' learning outcomes varies with age, and as such, impact evaluation needs to be adapted to each of the grades you teach. Another key aspect to keep in mind are the time points at which to assess impact in order to have a clear idea of progression, which will depend on what you're trying to measure. Should you take daily measures, or would you only need to do an assessment at the beginning or at the end? In the case of the teacher, who wanted her students to understand why the park shouldn't be degraded, she could have taken regular notes of little things, like not walking the lawns and not breaking branches. Or she could have done an initial assessment of attitudes at the beginning of the project and a final measurement at the end. Now it's your turn. Look back at the goals you have set at the beginning of this process and the planned citizen science activities. Reflect if your activities will allow you to achieve your goals. In order to measure the success of your citizen science activities in relation to your goals, define the indicators that will allow you to track this, as well as ways to implement them, surveys, interviews, photographs, and the respective timeline. And then add all this information to the Did It Work section of the planner. You can always readjust them or make them more specific throughout the process. This is a continuous and interactive process. Now that you've completed your planner, hopefully you will have built a strategy to integrate citizen science in your school daily practices that will allow you, together with your students, to approach the school curriculum in a more relevant and organic way, and to reach your educational goals while tackling local relevant challenges or opportunities within your community, and learn from experience and expertise of local partners. We know that this may seem at first a challenging task, but we believe it will lead to meaningful and long-lasting effects. Our teacher has been developing citizen science projects with her student for the last 10 years, which have allowed her to make a difference in her school's community. Now it's your turn. Your students, your school, your community, and a research team are waiting for you.